All right, let's just jump right in. We are about to pull back the curtain on one of the most chilling chapters in U.S. intelligence history. It's a story of secret experiments, destroyed evidence, and one person's relentless fight to bring it all to light.
Could the government actually control your mind? I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But for a while there, it was a very, very real goal for the CIA. And they didn't just kick the idea around. They poured millions of dollars into trying to make it happen.
And this is the project that came out of it. Project MKUltra. Yeah, even the name sounds kind of sinister, and believe me, it was. It kicked off back in 1953, and its whole purpose, its official mission, was to figure out how to weaponize the human mind. Just think about that for a second. Weaponizing the mind.
So why on earth would they do this? Well, to get it, you gotta understand the vibe of the Cold War. This wasn't just about armies and missiles. It was a psychological war, a secret war on minds, fought completely in the shadows.
And what fueled this whole thing? Pure paranoia. The CIA was absolutely convinced that the Soviets and the Chinese were already working on their own mind control tech. So, in this really twisted version of an arms race, they felt like they had to beat them to the punch. They needed their own arsenal of psychological tools to, manipulate people from the inside.
And this is where the story gets really, really dark. In their rush to build this arsenal, the CIA basically threw every ethical and moral rulebook out the window. What followed was a series of just deeply unethical experiments.
I mean, just look at this list. This was their gruesome toolbox. They were trying everything: hypnosis, radiation, a whole cocktail of different drugs, anything and everything they could think of to crack the code of the human mind. But one drug in particular, well, it became the star of the show, and not in a good way.
Yup, LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide. To the CIA, this wasn't some party drug. They saw this incredibly powerful hallucinogen as a potential master key, a way to unlock and maybe even control human consciousness itself.
And here's the absolute kicker, the part that is just a total betrayal. They weren't giving these drugs to volunteers who knew what was happening. No, their test subjects, and we're talking everyone from soldiers to ordinary people, were often dosed completely unknowingly, without their consent. Their minds were just thrown into chaos, all for a top-secret government project.
Okay, so for 20 years, MKUltra is running completely in the dark. But eventually, the walls started closing in, and when it looked like the program might get exposed, the CIA did something drastic to make sure its secrets were buried for good.
The order came straight from the top. In 1973, the director of the CIA, Richard Helms, ordered all MKUltra files to be destroyed. Just like that. In a single command, tons of evidence, all the details of what they did and who they did it to, just went up in smoke. It was supposed to be gone forever.
But the story doesn't end there. Not by a long shot. Check out this timeline. Just 2 years after that big bonfire of files, Congress actually managed to expose the program. But the real fight, the battle for whatever documents survived, that started decades later. And it wasn't led by some big government committee. It was led by one person.
So now we get to this part of the story, which is kind of like a modern-day David and Goliath. It's the story of one digital detective using the law to go up against one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world, trying to pry loose what's left of its darkest secrets. That person is John Greenwald, the guy behind the Black Vault. So back in the late 90s, he files a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request, and he waits. Finally, in 2004, the CIA sends him 4 CD-ROMs with what they claimed were the surviving MKUltra documents. He immediately puts them online for everyone to see. You'd think that's the end of the story, right? Case closed? Oh, not even close.
This is where things get really wild. Fast forward to 2016. A visitor to Greenwald's website, a guy named Oscar Diggs, meticulously goes through the CIA's own index and compares it to the files on the CDs. And what does he find? Hundreds of documents are just missing. So Greenwald files a new FOII request, this time for those specific missing files, and the CIA's response? It's just a masterclass in the bureaucratic runaround. First they say, oh, we can't find him. Then they change their story and demand he pay up for a bunch of behavioral modification files.
And we're not talking about 1 or 2 missing pages here. The initial count was 308 documents. These were files that were listed on the CIA's own index, but were nowhere to be found on the disks they sent out.
So to get these new files, the CIA wanted money, specifically $425.80
for thousands more pages. Greenewalt started a crowdfunding campaign, and his followers raised the cash in just a few days. So he cut the check and sent it off. But then, get this, when the CIA finally got back to him, the story changed again. The total number of pages they originally quoted suddenly shrank. Over 1,200 pages from that initial quote just, poof, vanished into thin air.
This whole frustrating back and forth really shows you something important about the whole MKUltra story. Even when something is supposedly declassified, getting your hands on the actual truth is a whole other battle. There are still so many secrets still hiding in the shadows. And the final twist is just absurd. The CIA sent the check back, uncashed. They sent over a tiny fraction of the documents, admitting that, yeah, oops, these should have been on the original CDs. But for the rest, they told Greenewald he'd have to start the whole payment process all over again. Just another delay, another roadblock.
You know, this quote here really nails it. MKUltra isn't just some wild story from the past. It's a powerful, chilling reminder of what can happen when power is allowed to operate in complete darkness, with zero transparency or accountability.
So, at the end of the day, it leaves you with this question, right? If this whole mess is what one person's fight over a few missing files revealed, what else is still buried in the shadows? What other secrets are still out there, completely hidden from us?